Hello everyone and welcome back to another edition of Indexer Office Hours. Today is the 11th of March and this is Indexer Office Hours 198. Juan, you have posted the agenda earlier, but if you could repost it, that would be great for people to check out. If anyone is new to Indexer Office Hours, and welcome if you are, this is the town square for graph ecosystem participants to come together and discuss the most important and relevant topics for indexers. You know what's coming next? This is a conversation and we do love participation. There you go. Wonderful timing, Chris. Thank you for the meme. We love it. We love it. So do get involved in today's conversation via voice or text. If you're having any challenges with voice, do let me know and I will get that sorted for you. Otherwise, yes, there is a chat box which people are already utilizing, which is fantastic. As a reminder, this is a call that's going to be recorded and posted onto public channels like YouTube. So if you are concerned about privacy, please bear that please bear that in mind. That's a nice one, Derek. I might actually do that. Without further ado, let's get into today's agenda. So we have a new GRT IQ episode, which is 211. And here we go. Let's try and pronounce this correctly. This is a French name, if I'm not mistaken. So I believe it's pronounced Mathieu, if I'm not mistaken. But I do want to pause and just double check in the chat. Okay, I love that GIF. That is an incredible GIF. Although Vince, to be fair, today's one is, I think, relatively easy. I believe it's Matthew. Please correct me if I'm wrong. And then the surname, tell me the name. And then the surname is Baudet? Baudet? Matthew Baudet? Oh, Baudet. Okay. Okay, so we have Baudet. Is that correct? Oh, that's correct. Okay. Interesting. Did I get the first Marc-Andre, I believe you're French if I'm not mistaken. Did I pronounce his first name correctly? Please let me know. I'd love to know. French class for 200. Yes, that would be hilarious. I think if anyone needs it. Okay, so Mathieu Baudet. Okay, okay. That's reasonable. That's reasonable. I'm pretty perfect. Wow. I got the perfect from the Frenchman. I'm pretty chuffed with that. That's the first perfect I've received thus far. Okay, well, he is the founder of Linear, also a man who holds a PhD in cryptographic protocols and security. Very impressive individual, and has been at the forefront of distributed systems for a while, over 2 decades, according to his description. He was a security consultant for the French government, and he also joined Facebook in 2012 to lead developer tools and machine learning infrastructure, and got a lot of experience working on the Libra DM blockchain project. If you guys remember that, that was a while ago. And has since now moved into building Linear, which is a layer 2, if I'm not mistaken, run by Consensus. So if you're interested in hearing his perspective on crypto protocols, Bitcoin, as well as Web3 and the graph and various things like that, do check out the episode there. Yes, Juan's already linked it. Fantastic. Thank you, sir. Interested. Okay, great. Now I will hand over to Anna for our regularly scheduled Repo Watch section.
Thank you, Abel, and hello, everyone. I don't have anything to pronounce, luckily, so I'll just keep on going with Repo Watch. So today on execution layer clients, we have a new release of Aragon. This is version 261.3, which includes a mandatory bug fix for bad deposit contract unmarshalling, which is critical for Sepolia and Chiado testnet. So this is a red urgency indicator, so critical fix for testnet, for transaction integrity. Then we have a new release of RAT. Actually, yeah. Do you guys say RAT or read? I seem to alternate between the two. So the new release is 1.2.2. which introduces a critical hotfix for the 𝗨𝗀𝗧𝗧 testnet that addresses an event parsing issue affecting all execution layer clients. This is a critical hotfix for deposit contract functionality, so please update as soon as possible. Okay, so it's read. Okay. Then we have a new release from Nethermind. This is 1.31.4, which is a mandatory update for 𝗨𝗀𝗂𝗟𝗶 and 𝗨𝗨𝗧𝗧 validator that fixes some discrepancies with deposit contracts. Again, a mandatory, but for validators. We have 𝗨𝗀 version 1.8.9, which sets the L2 migration block for mainnet at block 𝗨𝗀𝗂𝗪𝗧6500, which is scheduled for March 26, 2025. It also includes a bug fix for batch request limits in RPC requests that improves performance. This is not as critical, but still important by the 26th of March date. The consensus layer client, we have nothing new, but I've added Lodestar from last week's suggestion from Jim. Then on the graph stack, we have a new graph node release. This is version 0.37.0, which introduces composable subgraphs for enhanced modularity and adds YAML parsing support in mappings. It also has some new deployment metrics that improve tracking, with error handling enhancements that optimize performance. And it also has a breaking change that involves the removal of deployment failed metric. So if you're using that, you'll need to remove that. This is a yellow urgency indicator. So important updates, but not immediately critical. We haven't tested this release yet, but I'd be curious to know if anyone else has. Are we porting everything back to TS now? No idea. All right, this is all I had. Let us know if you tried the new version of GraphNode. Over to you, Juan.
Thanks, Anna. Okay, getting into Protocol Watch, we have a few things to cover. First of all, the forum governance, we have 3 disputes that have been resolved. All of them have been accepted, as the POI is wrong in all of those cases, even if the dispute itself was, most of the context of the dispute was related to the indexer status. We went, unfortunately, very slowly with these particular disputes due to many back and forth in the investigation, but it's thankfully now all of them are resolved, so yeah. Next, forum research, we don't have any new updates. Then for the contracts repository, all of the PRs are related to the current round of audits, mainly some pre-audit assessments, as well as some post-audit solidity changes that have been self-reported. And yeah, we don't have any new updates for the network subgraphs, so that's pretty much it for Protocol Watch. I'm gonna be handing over to Abel now.
Yes, thank you for handing over to me, and we love the GIFs in the chat. They're really funny. New segment. So if you guys remember last week, we had the InfraDAO guys come over and tell us a bit more about the upgrade indexer and give us like an update. So yeah, we'd like to re-invite them, and we did mention that this is going to be a recurring theme going forward. So without further ado, guys, feel free to take the stage.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'll be providing just a very brief update. Rootstock has been voted on by the council, and so has 𝗨𝗀𝗃𝗪𝗃, Polygon, 𝗨𝗃-AVM, and Arbitrum Sepolia are all looking good at going through the government process. We are still targeting we're still targeting the same dates that we had previously. So it looks like the rewards will be enabled very soon. It's still pending council, like the final council votes, so it hasn't been decided yet. I also wanted to give a quick update that we have an initial list of the first subgraphs that we we will have there, and they will have some initial curation based on the amount of query volume on these subgraphs, and also based on the storage of each of them. So we have that list. We will be sharing them with the indexes today, and that will show you the QM hashes, the chain, and how many gigabytes of storage each of these chains take. So have an eye on the announcement channels. Kate will be sharing it with indexes today. She might already be sharing it in the chat. I'm not sure how we are finalizing it as we speak. So that's all on my end. I see Kate is typing. There you go. Announcement live. Or like the list is live. So take a look and start supporting the new chains. I also want to mention that Kate is coordinating to have indexes support these new chains. We have a shorter timeline than we've had previously. So thank you so much to all the indexes that have reached out to her already and is coordinating to ensure we have support from day one. That's all on my end. Yeah.
Okay, amazing. Just want to add on to that as well. I'm in talks with several of the chains for them to come along to IOH to share a bit about their chains, what they're working on, how to best run nodes in their networks, and how you can get support if you need it. So just keep your eyes peeled for future sessions on this. The first one, issues with scheduling, so we couldn't quite make it happen. In this time period. So we've pushed it out to the 8th of April. So hopefully we can get that sorted. The first one would likely be Rootstock. So, but TBD, let's see. We have some scheduling things to figure out, but that just to let you know that that's the first one. Yeah, appreciate you, Kate, and you, Slim, as well for supporting that process. Okay. Yes, thank you. Big thank you to you both. Mark Andres posted a question, I guess, for the group, which reads, anyone else finds that restoring zk-sync error backup takes an insane amount of time? It'd be great for folks who are engaged with zk-sync to perhaps maybe share their thoughts. So I'll pause there for some thoughts, either via chat or via voice. Seems like Matthew's saying it does take a long time, and then Kate's said it's a tough one. I've shared that. Oh yeah, go ahead, Marc Andre. Do you want to come off mute and share some thoughts?
Yeah. Just I had it running for like a week now, and I mean we had 2/3 in, and I don't want to restart it because it took so long. So I was wondering what was everyone else's experience with it.
Sweet. Yeah, thanks for bringing up. Maybe Matthew, since you've interacted with it, maybe you could share some thoughts. And be sure to pray. That's also a good tactic too. Thanks, Grace. Marc Andre. Sorry, Matthew, would you like to share some thoughts? I see. Got it. There you go. Cool. Is anyone on your team who sometimes you've got other folks from Pinax who are here? Anyone on Pinax can maybe chime in on that to share thoughts, or anyone really who's interacted with zk-sync? Yeah, I don't see Jonathan on here. He's not here to my knowledge. Yeah, he seems to be the one who is close to the master layer. So cool. Well, anyone else? Any thoughts? Anyone playing around with zk-sync error? I think it'd be great to iron that one out here if we can.
I have it at Chainhead. Well, I had it for the last few months, but I stopped it last week to migrate. I'm trying basically to get it up and running now. to catch up, but it seems like it's not doing anything. I think Sebastian just messed something up in the config. But yeah, it was working fine until I closed it.
It was working fine until you what, sorry?
Until I stopped it basically last week to copy it. So I'm assuming once I get it back up and running, it will catch up immediately. Because the actual catch up to chain head, once you have imported, well, once you have the database running, say you're like months to catch up to chain head, it's quite fast. But I guess the initial import is very slow because you're essentially downloading the snapshot, which is a Postgres dump, which can be inserted only sequentially, as far as I'm concerned. So it's going to take a long time. Like it's only going to use one single thread of the CPU, I think.
Got it. It's Matthew said, thanks. I'll probably start a second instance, tweaking the Postgres setting a bit. Default settings may be insufficient. Okay, amazing.
Yeah, dropping the indices and recreating them might be a good idea, Chris. I'm just not sure how long it will help, how fast it would make things go, but for sure that's gonna make at least some difference.
Amazing. Cool. Well, yeah, sounds like there are some potential things that can be done for both of your setups to try and improve the speed there. So best of luck. And tying into what we were speaking about last week, I would like to, with the up and coming Network Watch segment, do more of these kinds of things. I mean, this is not this is somewhat related to that, but specifically what I want to be doing with Network Watch is, as Jim mentioned last week, finding problematic subgraphs, and as a community kind of like deciding what we can do to improve support for those subgraphs. I'm happy to share an update on that. We have got some positive reception from the Edgeno team, the support team specifically to run this kind of a thing. I've been speaking to Derek, who's also here as well, who would be a massive help in that respect as well. And so the wheels are turning for the Network Watch section that we're going to be having going forward. It would have been great to have had something today, but schedules didn't permit. I definitely there is appetite, and it'd be very exciting to see kind of how things play out in that respect. So what I want to do for the rest of today's IOH is let's have a see. If anyone else has BSC synced, could use more support on this one. Okay, nice. This is a request for support on that particular subgraph, right? Seems like Gemma's going to take a look. It's not big, but BSCS sometimes gives problem. Okay, this is great. This is amazing. This is how we improve QoS. This is already the start of something good with Network Watch. Okay, do you want to share a bit more, Derek, maybe, and then Gemma seems to want to check it out.
We've just had we've had questions that came in from the Venus team or whoever, someone that's querying this subgraph was running into issues. The upgrade indexer was falling behind the chain head, and we also had issues with our BSC node. This is one where indexing rewards aren't available and blah blah blah. So it's not something that you would normally find in your allocation processes, most likely. But when we fell behind and the upgrade indexer fell behind, it caused an issue for the end consumer. So having a couple other people on this one would definitely be helpful. We should be back at the chain head at this point, but in most of the subgraphs where you have full network support and you have 10 indexers on it, one person falls behind, no one notices, right? And so starting to get some additional help on that one would be nice. Another big one that's been particularly problematic is this base v3 Uniswap v3 base full, something like that. Jim probably has the QM handy because he and I have been chatting about that one. The subgraph's like 1.7 terabytes, and it's super not optimized. Yeah, that base one. Yeah, super not optimized. It's using like spec version 2, which is like before spec versions were really a thing. And it's just, yeah, quite a nasty guy. So we've got a bounty up in the builders DAO to go through and optimize this. And ideally, start trimming down some of those nasty time series. And different things to start to trim down the amount of ETH calls that are being made, right? All that good stuff so that we can, make this a better version. They really need to. Yes, the problem is that these guys are not like, I would say, expert subgraph developers. And so we're kind of like going in on their behalf to go and improve this thing and say, hey, you guys are using technology that's like, from the launch of the graph network, Edge and Nodes launched a ton of features that would make this thing far more performant and would make our indexers a lot happier. What is even yeah, I mean, what is expert level, right? I would at least someone that doesn't just like init or fork and deploy, right? A lot of these subgraphs are just like Uniswap forks and deploys, and so all of the inefficiencies from when Uniswap initially built their subgraph, 2 years ago, because one of their mobile developers needed to have a subgraph, which, they did a good job at that time. But there's a lot of new features that subgraphs have that are just not being implemented in a ton of these subgraphs. So things like declared calls inside the manifest, things like time series and aggregations. These are all things that will make syncing faster, ultimately make our lives a lot better because we're storing less information, and it'll give them faster queries. And so, getting these guys to implement those things is a little, it's been a little bit painful. Yeah. Yeah, Jonathan, I feel you on that. Make the graph CLI tooling provide some clear hints. Yeah, possibly. I mean, the other place that I was thinking that would be good to like give some hints is, just making like an AI agent or something like that inside of the studio. Just think about 𝗨𝗨𝗃 from like the old days in Word and be like, hey, I noticed you used an entity called token day data, and it's not a time series. And then, and then 𝗨𝗨𝗃 says, maybe you shouldn't suck so bad, or, not like that, but like having it make suggestions of like, hey, we released this feature. Did you by chance see that? That's going to make this a lot better. Yeah, that's probably a better version of 𝗨𝗨𝗃, right? But yeah, there's a ton of things there. So specifically with revert, I don't know what to do about their existing subgraph in order to make us sync it better. Builders DAO is going to go through and try to optimize that one a ton, and hopefully we can use that as a good benchmarking test case of like, hey, this was 1.7 terabytes, and now it's been reduced to whatever we can reduce it down to. So yeah, those are some of the things that have been hitting up my chat windows. Yep, I think a 𝗨𝗨𝗃, 𝗨𝗨𝗃 knockoff inside of the studio. There we go. Hey, maybe you shouldn't suck so bad. Yes? No? Which one do you click?
You guys are so fast with the memes. It's so impressive. That's so good. Oh man. We're getting a lot of love from 𝗨𝗨𝗃 in the chat. We love that. Yeah. Yeah, but this is great. This is we can recap the best. Ooh, that seems like a fun thing that we could do for IOH 200. Yeah, I do like that. There've been some fuego memes in IOH up until now. So definitely worth considering that as a topic. Yeah, this is great. This is great. Like, thanks, Derek, for initiating that, because that's exactly the kind of talk that we'd like to have at Network Watch. And yeah, I mean, this is beautiful. This is how we improve QoS, right? Like you mentioned this subgraph that you like extra support on, and indexes are jumping on it. I wonder, so a few of you said you're gonna have a look. I'd love to, yeah, just direct more attention to that. I'm up to Chainhead, but I'm over allocated. Interesting. So I'll do it tomorrow. Okay, cool. Great. Well, yeah, that's amazing. It's the fact that it's been brought to your attention. I wonder, are there any other indexers who are keen on having a look at this as well? Maybe also on BSC. Actually, first of all, who's on BSC so far? Maybe a show of hands, just put like something in the chat if you're on BSC. Just curious to see like numbers. Okay, we are BSC market size. Any indication of if/when it may go through CIP? Oh, good question. That's for you, Slim Chance. Could you give us some clarity on BSC and the CIP process? So many acronyms. BSC and the CIP process. Yeah, so Slim, do you want to share some thoughts there? Or maybe Kate, anyone who has the most context?
BSC already have rewards. What we are working on is 𝗨𝗪, which is the BSC testnet. But BSC doesn't it have already rewards? Let me verify.
It definitely does. Yeah.
Yeah.
What we're working on
I was
now
very
is
confused. Yeah.
that,
One moment.
there are occasionally some subgraphs on chains with rewards that don't work because of things like the IPFS cat that I saw. But broadly speaking, it should work, and they should have rewards. And yeah, we're working on Chapel right now. It's just as fun as BSC, but less storage space. Woohoo!
Yeah, BSC was on the initial batch of chains that we did, I think, during the MIP. No, right after MIPS, one of the first chains that we did with the CIP.
Amazing. Josh has seemed to have found a subgraph that doesn't show as failed, but seems to be stuck at the same spot. I actually haven't clicked the link, but do you want to share some thoughts there? Derek seems to agree with you there, but do you want to share some additional thoughts on that one? And maybe if you've interacted with it, what's your experience been thus far? That would be great, because yeah, we'd love to call more attention to, it seems to be on Polygon, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts, Josh, and oh, Moonbeam. Sorry, Moonbeam, not Polygon. Yeah, please do share thoughts, and let's see if we can get some more indexer attention on that. In the meantime, there's a question there from Mark Andre saying, "Can we pull GIP approval from Moonbeam?" What do you want to elaborate there, Mark Andre? I don't know the context there.
Well, I was half joking here. It's just that Moonbeam has been challenging, and not every subgraph can be synced, and I suspect there's some issues with the way that they upgrade their chain all the time, and so indexing older subgraphs using a newer version of the chain or the newer version of node can be problematic or something like that. So there's a bunch of subgraphs that the upgrade indexer is able to sync, but everyone else is failing or stalling for various reasons.
Got it. I did not know that. What do you guys think, Slim and Kate? I know it's a joke, but what do you guys think about what's been said about Moonbeam? And has this been a problem that you guys have heard from other indexes too, or what's your comms been like with the team in that respect? Would love to hear your thoughts on that, guys.
Sure. I mean, I would say that we had a lot of just requests from the upgrade indexer team to support Moonbeam more. Probably could also be related to that broader issue, because I know some of their customers were affected. And so we did work on getting that, and we did finally get rewards for that. But it seems like beyond that process, like you were saying, Mark, that there's broader issues with the actual subgraphs that are on the network. Potentially. I don't think our indexers had issues setting up the node. And we do maintain it for a little bit, but we're not, indexing for long periods of time. So we don't have that same, data set that indexers who are doing it and maintaining it much, longer would have. So I think it's worth a conversation, but I know that support was really needed for Moonbeam. So I can't speak further to that. It's definitely a conversation worth having, considering I would say, changes that are going on in the network related to, chains getting support in terms of the CIP rewards, and also just wanting to make the network more efficient with a higher QoS. So that particular process that you're mentioning, Mark, is a little beyond my scope of knowledge, so I want to have respect for what I don't know. But our basic communication has been that we just needed more support for Moonbeam, so we did our best to get rewards going. We didn't have issues setting up the nodes. We didn't have issues with POI divergences, but what we're talking about here is subgraph, performance, and then the continued changes. Yeah, and I mean, if it's helpful for us to share more insights as well, we're more than welcome to do that. Yeah, and I'm sorry you guys are dealing with the ZK Sync era. I was calling it ZK Stink because I was really feeling for our indexers, and we did a lot to. Yeah, it's the endless saga of the ZK Stink. ZK Sync isn't it ZK Stink era. I feel like this is a safe space to say that. But I'm sorry. Maybe that was a private. But yeah. So we did our best with writing our documentation for you guys to avoid some of the trouble that we dealt with. But their community hub is really good at addressing issues. Jonathan had an initial issue with downloading the snapshot that they were able actually to help with. So our other team members were successfully able to download it and work with it, but it did take a really long time. So you're not crazy, you're not alone. And yeah, it's just a struggle when you can't sync a chain in like the normal way from Genesis. I don't know if that's helpful, but yeah, Moonbeam, I think what you're talking about is going to be a broader consensus for people who are indexing on the network long term and can see these things from a higher viewpoint than I might see doing CIP testing.
Yeah, I think for Moonbeam, I think getting a node up and running with the infra documentation was fairly straightforward. I don't remember any particular issues here, and I know the CIP process tests everything very well, so that's not a problem. I think it's more like Moonbeam might have a problem with backward compatibility or something like that. I'm not sure. I didn't investigate thoroughly, but I had a fairly high failure rate on indexing subgraphs on Moonbeam, and that's yeah, that's why I was joking here, but at the same time trying to get feedback from other indexers about their experience there.
Yeah, it'd be great to hear other people's perspectives as well, if anyone else is on Moonbeam. Anyone else on Moonbeam? Maybe a show of hands via the comments section. Maybe type in if you are on Moonbeam and if you have interacted with subgraphs on the network. On that, yeah, it'd be great to hear. For us, it wasn't failed, but stuck at one point. Okay, interesting. Would you like to elaborate on that? Maybe share some thoughts and your experience. Yeah, this seems to be evolving into a conversation where we're finding problematic subgraphs are problematic. networks and trying to kind of share experiences, which is fantastic. This is the kind of conversation that we want for a network watch. So it's great to see that things are already moving in that direction. So yeah, folks, feel free to share your experiences on Moonbeam. Payne seems to have said fixed ZK sync on his end. Interesting. Could you share a bit more maybe about that as people are typing in the chat as it relates to Moonbeam? Maybe share a bit more about your experience with ZK sync and how you've been able to navigate that.
Well, my problem, like I said, was like because I stopped it. Like it was deployed on an LXC container, and now I moved it to Docker, and that was it. Like I had a small issue in the Docker Compose config file, but yeah, it's catching up now. But like I said, I was using it before. Like I had it synced up to Chainhead before. Chris, unfortunately, that's not going to happen. It's going to take way too much, way too long for us to migrate to Kubernetes. I wish, but no, we already wasted like 2 months to plan out what to do. But yeah, so on my end, that seems to be going fine. It's definitely catching up quite fast when it is catching up. I can share my configs, well, my Docker Compose files, if that helps anyone. But other than you waiting for it to be imported in your database, I don't think there's anything you can do to speed it up. I had my database from someone that already had it at Chainhead, and it's like, yeah, they've been syncing it for a long time also.
Did you say that you're willing to share your configs? Is that correct? Did I hear that correctly?
Yeah, I can share the configs. 1 second.
Yeah, let's do it. And then I see Derek, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, you're off mute, so would you like to chime in as well?
No, I just stepped away from my computer and I've got a mute button on my headset.
Got it. Cool, thanks. Yeah, so we'll just wait on Payne to share his thoughts there. Question here from Kate. Say, we do have comms with the Moonbeam team, and they're generally responsive. Is it worth reaching out to them? So I guess for Marc-Andre and others who are on Moonbeam and having challenges that maybe you want to relay to the actual Moonbeam team. I know that it's more subgraph related, but if there are anything you'd like to share with the Moonbeam team, I think it's a good opportunity to do that via Kate's connection to them. So yeah, any thoughts, guys, as we're waiting for Payne to share config? Perfect. Thanks for sharing there, Payne. You want to say a few words maybe about that as Marc-Andre's typing in relation to Moonbeam?
There's nothing really to say. It just works. But like I said, like, it takes time to import it because it's a single-threaded workload. The faster your CPU speed is in gigahertz, the faster it will import the data. But yeah, it's not ideal that they shared it in a stupid PG dump format. Like I always run away as far as possible from having things in a PG dump format because yeah, it's always a pain to also like first dump it and then restore it.
Got it. Awesome. Thanks for sharing. Really do appreciate that. Also want to turn the attention to a question that Chris has asked, which is how much view do they/you have of the large network subgraph how much view do they/you have of the large network subgraph consumers of Moonbeam? So do you want to chime in on that, Kate? I've CC'd you. It seems like other people also typing as well. Yeah. Do you want to share thoughts there?
Let me look here. I didn't see this. How much? I don't have a view on that at this point. that would be, I think, something that we could ask I could ask them about it. I could also talk to our support team about it. When we're getting into subgraphs, like specific subgraphs on the network, that's not really my zone. But I'm happy to connect communications if there's something that we can share with them. Yeah, I'm happy to do that. So feel free to ping me. Or what I'll also do is I can invite you to the Moonbeam channel in the Graph Discord, or you can join it. I'll follow up and bug some folks in the Indexer channel, and we can reach out to them and see if that's helpful. Yeah, for sure.
Is this question about what consumers or large network consumers there are, or is it more a question on the query volume in general? Because we do see a significant query volume on Moonbeam. It is towards the end of the top 20 list of when it comes to query volume. So it is significant. It's not in the top query volume.
That's interesting. Thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
mostly just driven by curiosity. Like, so if they're in the top 20 by query volume, do you have a sense of where they fit into the curation list? Like how much curation is on Moonbeam subgraphs relative to query volume?
I do not. And that's a very interesting question indeed, and maybe something that is worth discussing at IOH as well, is that curation market is not very active. There doesn't seem to be a lot of independent curators, and it seems that a lot of subgraph developers do not actively follow up or curate their subgraphs. A lot of it is handled. Well, it's curated as they first deploy. Some of it is handled by Edgenode, and I know that that we don't want to be the ones that are directing the market as well, but at the same time, Edgenode with the new networks will be the ones doing most of the curation. And the question is, like, what do we do with other subgraphs on other networks that we see query volume but not adequate curation support? Is it something that we should help out with? Is it something that we should just leave up to the market? And yeah, it's a bit of a bigger question. Probably very interesting to have here in IOH. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, would love to hear if that's something people would like to talk about. So yeah, folks, any thoughts? Feel free to type in the chat. I think it makes sense. Oh, go ahead.
Might be harsh and might be too direct, but in my opinion, if you can't be bothered to learn how to use a network, you better not just use it.
Savage
I
take.
think, like, I think that's okay. Like, different roles in the network should be concerned with different things. And I think from an indexer's perspective, that's fair enough, because the indexer's kind of outsourcing that to curation and trusting in the curation market and so on. That being said, like, we have to contend with the market reality that, like, the network is competing with centralized providers that, like, by virtue of being centralized, have a much more simple and clear user experience. And that means that the network has, like, this increased cognitive overhead, right? Like, I can either, like, I have a subgraph, I want an endpoint, I want to pay for the endpoint, like, I want a simple mental model for that. And if I can go to a centralized provider and get that, that might be more attractive than being forced to understand the protocol and curation and everything like that. So I do think that the user experience really matters. I don't think that concern is one for the indexer role. Personally, I believe that is the concern of gateway operators, right? Like, gateway operators are the kind of access points to the network, and ultimately are the actors that bridge the network's capabilities, to the consumer and like make that productized and available. So to me, it does make sense that gateway operators take a very active role in abstracting away the complexities of the network and curation and everything like that.
That makes sense to me as a take. We are, yeah, within a market. What do you think about that, Payne? If you have any additional thoughts.
I do like Matthew's idea with just EIN curating based on query volume as a formula.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
I
if
don't
we
know.
want to keep it simple and not have to explain, like, I agree with Chris, right? We have to make it easy for users compared to the other providers. So if Edge and Node just applies the more queries you have, the more curation you have. We just recheck it once every, I don't know, month or something, and adjust the curation. I don't know. Is it gameable? Maybe. I don't know the gamification stuff. But then, that tells indexers which subgraphs they need to index. Might be overly simplistic.
Yeah, but I think it's a solid solution. I also don't know if it's gameable, but putting some thought behind that and then putting some funds behind that makes sense to me as well. I wonder if this is something that Edgenode has thought about. I wonder if there's anyone here from Edgenode. I don't think so, but I can circle back on that. We're gonna have Edgenode, hopefully if scheduling permits, we'll have Edgenode here with us next week. So I can yeah, maybe park that for that conversation or just ask someone about that. I'm sure it seems like an obvious solution. Forgive me if I'm missing something. Like why isn't that not been implemented already? It seems like a simple solution to the problem.
I think the overall reason, just from prior discussions, is that with the amount of inflation rewards that are occurring, or index rewards rather, you could start to gamify it, where you create a bot that just sends a bunch of queries to some easy to index subgraph that then gets a lot of curation, and then you get paid a bunch of money. Meanwhile, you're only spending a small amount of GRT and query fees, and you could do that in a way where it's a subgraph that's problematic for other indexers to sync. So we could go and create something that's a subgraph that's 3 terabytes. We pre-sync it, we deploy it to the network, we run a bot and just send a bunch of traffic to it, and then the gateway comes in and amplifies it, and so the reward outweighs the cost in that sense.
Got it. Yeah, makes sense to me. Pretty easily spoofable or gameable. I mean, it's not, yeah, as Juan was alluding to here, it seems like this was discussed quite extensively around the conversation around curation. I mean, yeah.
I have
Mhm,
something
go
to
ahead.
add that might solve it, maybe. Why not, when someone deploys a subgraph to the mainnet network, why not add a transaction in there as a cost of doing business, that it also costs something to curate it as like a first time cost or something like that. And then things can be added later, but at least 1,000 GRT or 5,000 GRT will be added to the first publish. Yes, it will increase the cost of first time users, but then people will be taking care of themselves, and it's no real change to the network, and it's just something that's happening that the user doesn't even really have to deal with or think about, besides having GRT in their wallet.
Yep. When you go to deploy a subgraph, it asks you to signal.
So okay, so it's really simple, and people still aren't doing it.
Yeah, which is not uncommon.
It's not. It's optional though, and I think what Vince is saying is having a UI change where you do not make it optional, and that is the default option, or even just make it the default option and highlight it in the UI. I think that could also be an option. But also know that in some cases it is being managed by others that the ones that will be paying for it. So it's not always straightforward. But I agree that a lot of these things could be helped by a UI that is more opinionated, and that could be up to each individual gateway operator as well, how they ensure that these subgraphs gets curation, whether that is a higher API key costs or whether that's curation signal upon publication or what it is. So
Yeah, like make it like you can opt out. Obviously, if like Slim Chance is saying where, like I'm like a kex or something and my payments are weird and financial stuff's weird, I get that. I understand that. But like you can opt out, but the default, if someone's not paying attention, because obviously they don't already, if you're not paying attention, this is what it costs to play a subgraph. And it requires signal and you have to opt out of it. And then something you opt out of, you're a little more aware of, like, hey, I intentionally opted out of not signaling my subgraph. So that's why it's not being trafficked at all or indexed.
Chris, do you want to chime in? I think you wanted to chime in earlier, right?
Yeah, I think all of these are good ideas. They, all come with trade-offs, like something like, a fixed amount of curation at the point of publishing may actually have an undesirable effect, because there's a fixed amount of rewards being distributed on the network. And so actually, if all subgraphs just on average have more curation, that doesn't actually mean any subgraph gets any more rewards, and it actually just increases the cost of the service for the consumer without actually providing any benefit. So, but that doesn't mean it's not a good idea, but yeah, we have to obviously consider things holistically. Generally, I am of the opinion that, like, this is why we want multiple gateways. This is like, we want each gateway operator to be able to take their own approach, to innovate, to experiment with new forms of packaging and pricing, and maybe some gateway operators expose things like curation and GRT, and other gateway operators just abstract all of that away. And yeah, until we're really in a multi-gateway environment, we don't have like we don't have any competition or exploration in that user experience layer.
Yeah, because I do think it, on initial deployment, it makes it more costly, but that in reality is the actual cost if you're not being subsidized by a core dev making people index your stuff. Like the actual core cost is signal on your subgraph. And if you
No, but
don't
that
have
cost
other
is
tools,
wasted. Like that's so. Let's say we all put in like $5,000 of GRT. Like, if everybody's put that amount of signal on the subgraph, nobody gets any more rewards. Like, we've
yeah,
just increased the effective cost of doing business without any benefit.
yes. But it's just that person actually getting indexers, because right now I think we're falling into a place where people are publishing and then saying, where are my indexers at? So the value you would get in enforcing something like that, even if it's minimal, is people are getting service without saying, hey, signal me, signal me, signal me. And then you also don't run into the snake eating itself, like we were talking about before. But like making that a core component and cost of publishing something new is putting curation on it, because unless you are,
Vince, there's a fixed amount of rewards that are
yes,
distributed. And
yeah,
so really, to get more rewards, you need to have more signal than the average. So if the baseline becomes X, then that
Yeah.
just increases the cost without actually increasing any of the rewards that flow to indexers. Like it won't, just because somebody signals X, that won't attract any indexers because that won't result in any incentives flowing.
Well, it will if you have a subgraph with even 1,000 GRT and no other indexer is on it. An indexer is going to index it.
Not if all the subgraphs have 1,000 GRT in curation. Yeah, nothing will happen.
Mm.
Because 1,000 GRT then basically becomes the new baseline, the new zero.
Mm-hmm.
But it wouldn't necessarily be zero. It would be greater than zero, although, very minimal.
Yeah.
Whereas like all the ones that are all the ones that are currently zero is there is no benefit. But even if something has 2 GRT signaled, we might come in and say, all right, we'll place a 1 GRT allocation.
That 1 GRT allocation is also enough for you to serve queries on that subgraph. So
Exactly.
exactly, yeah. So it still achieves something. It would achieve a minimum of 1 indexer that has that allocation open to ensure they get the rewards from those 1,000 GRT, or 100 GRT is currently the minimum that can be on the bonding curve or in the curation market. So
that
Yeah.
that I'm on board with. That makes sense. But then that minimum amount should be the lowest possible amount, right? Because it's effectively just the lowest cost to participate in indexing reward distributions and nothing
Correct.
more.
Yeah, just
And
actually
that's
getting
enforced
a
at a
reward.
contract level.
Yeah, basically just like flipping the switch between 0 indexers are going to touch this to you might actually get an indexer now.
But it could also lead to even more UI issues where if the default is to curate with 100 GRT, it does not become intuitive to do 10x that and do 1,000 GRT, which is what a lot of consumers want to have a decent quality of service. So it might even be harder to say, hey, you're paying a little bit, but you should be paying a lot more. At that point, like I think this is more of it's more how we communicate it than enforcing it via the protocol. But it could be difficult. Yeah.
One thing that I'd also like to propose is, I don't know that this is an alternative solution, but it is something that we've been doing at Data Nexus, and I think it'd be great if more indexers were doing this as well, is where we look at the subgraphs ordered by query usage. I think Josh from Streaming Fast had asked that question earlier. We have a query that I put together that just looks at the quality of service metrics subgraph and just looks at yesterday's total query traffic. And then we'll take a split on seeing what's the total amount of GRT that these guys spent on query fees. How many queries did that comprise of? How many indexers are currently on that subgraph? Are we allocated to that subgraph? Are we synced on that subgraph? And if so, what was our split of the total query fees? And that becomes just kind of like a natural working flow for us to say, oh, here's something that's producing traffic. And should we start syncing it? Should we place an allocation on it? And we have a whole bunch of allocations where we just place like 1,000 GRT as just kind of a placeholder for the purpose of serving queries. But I think if we had more indexer attention on filling that, like there's a whole bunch in this list that just have only one indexer on it. And so, but they have some query traffic, albeit low.
Josh seems to have asked a question here saying, want to share that list/query can help backfill, perhaps.
Yeah, I mean, this query is very much so tailored to our indexer. So give me one sec.
Alpha indeed. Thank you, Derek, as you're preparing that. Yeah, this is great. This is the kind of conversation that love to see, and I'm very keen on facilitating in the network watch segment that we're going to be doing going forward. I've said that a million times today, but I think the repetition is an indication as to how much I'm, hammering it in. Exactly. That's correct. So yeah, this is great. This is amazing. Let's see. So Gemma's saying, I've been playing around with QoS subgraph 2, trying to search query fees, though, I'm old though, and can only code in Python. Well, the hope is that GraphSeer and many other dashboards can make that whole process a lot easier, like visualize that data. And I'm working with the GraphSeer team to, hopefully get a lot of the stuff that we have here on the whiteboard in terms of metrics that you guys would like to see, as well as some of the stuff that you're mentioning. So whatever you want, basically. TBC. Stay tuned. Pilly's mentioned, yes, we have run over slightly. Just want to thank Derek here for posting the query. That's very kind of you. Do check it out, Josh, and I guess play around with that. Thank you, everyone, for another incredibly insightful edition of Index Office Hours. This is the way that I would like this whole call to go, making it a lot more interactive and engaging, and one where there's actionable insights and tasks that can be moved forward post call. So seems like that's happened today, which is great. Any final thoughts? Because I realize this was a very good conversation, especially towards the end. I want to make sure everyone has a space to share any final thoughts before we wrap. I see a few people typing. As like a final POAP. Yes, POAP's already been shared. I think it's get your POAP is the code. Pilly, could you just repost? That would be great. I'm going to try to find it here as well. Here we go, found it. We love POAPs. Here we go. That's the code there. The window has ended. Sorry about that. Well, yeah, good luck getting the POAP next time. Sorry about that. Anyways, this has been a long wrap up. Seems like there are no burning questions or thoughts. So I'm going to take this opportunity to say thank you to each and every one of you for joining Index Office Hours, and we will see you again next week for the 18th for another edition of Index Office Hours. Take care, everyone. Have a wonderful rest of your week, and we'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.